hello, Rwanda.
James, you're dodging my... I mean, that's such a
you.
ludicrous suggestion. I'm not even going to entertain it.
It's not ludicrous.
Of course it's ludicrous.
I'd just like to say that I would give my eye teeth to live in Rwanda. You know, I'm in Tower Hamlets. I don't know if you've ever seen Shadwell or, you know, Mile End. It's like hideous people, grey drizzle, heaps of dog ordure. You know, the idea of going somewhere like that with nice weather, fresh fruit, you know, affordable housing. I'm in. Can I go to Rwanda, please?
What's stopping you, my friend?
Well, I can't afford the airfare.
So if you could,
to live.
So if we did a crowdfunder for an airfare, you would move to Rwanda tomorrow?
I would definitely leave this country and move somewhere else. Yeah.
To Rwanda? Or somewhere else?
Yeah, definitely. It sounds nice. And after all, you know, all these people fleeing persecution in France are genuine refugees. They're all genuine refugees. And so, you know, they're fleeing from persecution. So, you know, unless they've got a real nose for trouble, they won't be persecuted in Rwanda as well.
What if they're gay? What if they're LGBT? What if they're LGBT?
Well, does that mean that every gay person in the world can only live here? Or what's wrong with them living in France if they're LGBT?
But isn't it? It's about us directly sending them to a country where they might face discrimination and persecution, James.
Well, you know, they don't have to go around telling everyone they're LGBT.
So they should just hide that part of their identity.
Well, nearly every country in the world is oppressive to gay people, apart from
yes, and until now, we don't send people who might be penalised because of that to countries where they might be.
I think your choice of language there is a bit unfortunate, but
why?
Well, penalised, you know.
But that's what's happening.
Or they'd be penalised.
Yeah, they're not allowed to get married there for a start.
Well, so every gay person in the world, because they're going to be persecuted, should be able to come to the UK.
Do you think someone who's fleeing persecution because of their sexuality in another country, say Iran, who comes to the UK, should be deported to another country where they might face the same persecution?
Well, I don't think it's a valid ground for fleeing because there's no way that you can measure this. Anyone can say that they are gay or bisexual or something as a way of saying that they have a right to come to another country.
James, pause it there, if you would. That's James Town. Let's bring in Barry in Edgware. Barry, where are you on this? Hi.
Hello, Ben. Well, morally speaking, I'm totally against it, but I'm not willing to argue that point. But I wanted to bring something up that came up last night on Nick Abbott's show and again on Nick's show this morning. On the 20th of December, there's a parliamentary response to... it's in the libraries, and I've double-checked it, saying that we've agreed to take vulnerable people from Rwanda in exchange for us sending people there. So be careful what you wish for.
Yep, that's true. We will be taking some from there, but we're also going to be sending vulnerable people to Rwanda, aren't we? What would you say to James, who says these people are making it up, we can't help them all, you know, they should just hide that part of their identity if they're going to be persecuted?
Well, first of all, I was a PC at Lemon Street in the 60s, and it was wonderful, that part of the world, but that's not the people's fault, that's the government's fault, successive governments. But I think that there's another way we can do this, and that's by using cruise ships and the Navy to deal with people offshore at Calais, and then...
But James says we don't need any of that because it's such a wonderful idea. It's such a wonderful place to go and live in Rwanda that he'd do. If he could afford it, he'd go himself.
Well, I've been watching the tour of Rwanda, the cycling. It does look pretty good, actually. There's no litter and the roads are lovely, but you look beneath the surface at the politics, and I wouldn't want to... I don't know what to say to that, really, Ben.
You wouldn't want to go, Barry?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, you and me both. Thank you, Barry. Barry and Andrew. James, let's just come back to you. The whole point of this policy, right, is that it's meant to be a deterrent, that the idea of being sent to Rwanda is such an unpleasant one that people will stop trying to come here on small boats. Presumably you think that's not going to work at all because it's such a wonderful place to go and live that more will come here and say, send me on that plane.
Well, yeah, I think that's the thing. I think that lots of people now will be coming to the UK so they can get a free air ticket to go to Rwanda.
Right, so the policy is nonsense.
Well, what we should do is we should use foreign aid and open up a gay nightclub in Rwanda. Why not?
because it would be shut down by the authorities.
No, but if we use our foreign aid, because we spend billions on foreign aid, we should say, hello, Rwanda.
James, you're dodging that's such a ludicrous suggestion. I'm not even going to entertain it.
It's not ludicrous.
Of course it's ludicrous. You want us to
pay them to be more gay-friendly.
We can lobby them, but perhaps we could start by not... Perhaps we could start by not sending people who might be persecuted for that to a country where they might face that sort of treatment. Perhaps that would be a start.
We should open up a state-of-the-art gay village in Rwanda, which is guarded by the United Nations. That's what we should do with our
How much
money.
is that going to cost, James?
A lot less than housing millions of people in hotel rooms in the UK.
Which is only arisen because we are so shambolic at actually processing their applications that it take 2 years. Didn't used to be a problem, of course. But you didn't answer my question. If you think living in Rwanda is such a wonderful thing, then presumably you think that when the government says this is going to be a tough deterrent that will stop people wanting to come here because that's the threat they will face, you think that's utter nonsense.
I think it will draw people
So
to
it doesn't
the UK.
work. So it's going to do the opposite of what the Home Secretary thinks it will do.
I think it will draw people because the opportunities to go and be gay in Rwanda will be so overwhelming.
Go and be gay in Rwanda.
Yes.
Well, look, at least you're consistent. At least you're consistent in saying, actually, Suella Braverman's right and the policy won't work, because she's not being consistent. I mean, the idea we should be setting up villages for LGBT people in a country where they are routinely discriminated against and prejudiced against. Wonder how that would go down with the Rwandan government. I wonder what people listening to that, James, thinking, I could be one of those people being sent there and you want to build them a village, would make of that, when all they're crying out for is safety and safe haven in this country. Why can't we house them in a village here where there isn't that sort of persecution? We're talking tiny numbers when it comes to LGBT people fleeing oppression and discrimination in other countries. Why don't we house them here in a village or a town or a city? We got the room. James, thank you for your call.